Imagine sipping a cold bottle of Coke and the next moment, your heart starts racing, your head spinning until those who feed on the vital part of man shall never lack wealth, never lack power. Let the feast begin. In the quiet town of Erua, Momo General Hospital stood like a blessing from heaven, and inside it worked a man the people called a saint, Dr. Igabi. He was bald, with just a few lonely strands of hair clinging to the top of his head like secrets refusing to die. His voice was calm, his smile disarming. His white coat carried the weight of compassion, or so they thought. He didn't just treat patients, he paid the bills of those who couldn't afford it. He gave out free drugs to pregnant women and even donated his blood during emergencies. Igabi is not like other doctors, the townspeople will say. He stayed when others ran to the city. The government offered him a transfer, but he declined. The community, overwhelmed with gratitude, gifted him multiple plots of land. On one, he built his house, and on the other, he built his own private clinic, a modest structure that bore the name in bold letters, Igabi Hospital. At first, the clinic was barely used, but Momo General Hospital was always crowded. The waiting lines stretched like funeral processions, and when patients came gasping for attention, Dr. Igabi would refer them to his clinic. At first, just a few, then almost everyone who couldn't stand the crowd at Momo. Soon, Igabi Hospital became just as busy, if not more, than the government facility. To the villagers, he was God sent. To Dr. Igabi, it was all service to humanity. On Fridays, he sat with imams. On Sundays, he shook hands with pastors. During outreaches, he posed for photos with the poor. And every time someone asked why he cared so much, he would chuckle and say,
"Life is nothing if you cannot help others."
But beneath that smile, behind the charity, inside those tiled hospital walls, something monstrous was brewing. The rain that night came like a curse, loud, relentless, flooding the streets of Erua. Thunder cracked across the sky as Mrs. Afolabi clutched her swollen belly in agony. Ade, I can't hold it anymore, she cried, her face drenched in sweat. Momo General Hospital was far and worse, unreliable. Everyone knew their lights could go out mid-delivery, leaving mothers at the mercy of torchlights. There was only one place to trust at such an hour, Igabi Hospital. When they arrived, Nurse Dupe, one of Mr. Igabi's most trusted aides, and two other nurses rushed out to help. Within minutes, Mrs. Afolabi was on bed, groaning in pain. A quick examination, whispered words. Then, Nurse Dupe left to fetch the doctor. Moments later, Dr. Igabi entered, his bald head gleaming under the fluorescent light. He didn't smile this time. After a brief check, he called Mr. Ade Afolabi into his office.
"Look, Mr. Afolabi,"
Igabi began softly.
"your wife's baby isn't properly positioned. We will have to perform an emergency cesarean section now. It's the only way to save them both."
Ade's eyes widened.
But doctor, the last scan from the general hospital showed they were fine. It said the baby is okay, well positioned.
Igabi's face hardened.
"Ben, take her there,"
he said coldly, already turning to leave. Panic gripped Mr. Afolabi. The rain outside was unrelenting, the roads dangerous, and his wife's screams echoing through the hallway twisted his heart.
"Wait, doctor, please, just do whatever it takes. Save them, I beg you."
And with that, he filled the consent form with trembling hands. The theater smelled of antiseptic and fear. Only Dr. Igabi and his two trusted nurses were inside, Nurse Dupe and Nurse Bisi. Machines beeped steadily as the rain pounded the roof above.
"Scalpel,"
Igabi said. The cut was clean. The cry of a newborn filled the room minutes later. Relief washed over Mr. Afolabi, who was waiting outside. But inside, Dr. Igabi wasn't done. His gloved hands moved with unnerving precision, reaching deeper, retrieving something no one had consented to. Nurse Bisi looked away, lips pressed tight. Nurse Dupe simply handed him a small container without a word. Closer up, Igabi ordered calmly, as if nothing unusual had happened. Minutes later, he stepped out, smiling warmly.
Congratulations, Mr. Afolabi. You have a healthy baby girl.
Ade wept with joy, never knowing that night had cost them more than they could ever imagine. Morning broke over Erua, but in the mansion on Okuta Street, Alhaji Bawa was still fast asleep in his massive air-conditioned bedroom. The sudden ring of his phone jolted him awake. He squinted at the screen, then answered.
Dr. Igabi, how far?
He asked, sitting up. A calm voice replied from the other end.
I'm in front of your gate.
Alhaji's lips curved into a grin.
Oh, that's great. Just come in.
Minutes later, Dr. Igabi walked into the house like he owned it. No hesitation, no announcement, straight to Alhaji's room.
Do you have the package?
Alhaji asked, lowering his voice. Igabi's bald head gleamed as he smiled, a wicked, satisfied smile.
I won't be here if I don't,
he said, handing over his stainless foot flask. Alhaji opened it, peered inside and smiled with delight.
You have done well, doctor.
From beside his bed, Alhaji pulled a briefcase, opened it and handed Igabi a thick bundle of cash. Igabi didn't bother counting, just tucked the money into his pocket when Alhaji's voice came again.
I need a heart.
Igabi frowned instantly.
But that will mean killing someone.
Alhaji's eyes hardened.
I don't care. I have a client who needs it urgently. Are you in, or should I take this elsewhere?
Silence hung in the room. Igabi's mind raced. He had harvested organs before. Yes, but never killed anyone. He knew what saying no to Alhaji meant. It was not just rejection, it was danger. After a long pause, he finally nodded.
Fine, I'll do it.
Alhaji's lips curled into a satisfied smile.
Good man.
Driving away from the mansion, Igabi's hands gripped the steering wheel tightly. For the first time, doubt gnawed at him. He had crossed lines before, but this was different. And as the road stretched before him, one question echoed in his mind. Who will be the unlucky one? Deep beneath a secret mansion stood a hidden chamber. Its walls were covered in ancient carvings, symbols of serpents, skulls, and strange patterns no one outside the circle could ever understand. The air was thick with the smell of smoke and blood. Inside, 10 men sat in a circle, all wearing black hooded cloaks. Their heads were bowed, their voices humming in unison as they chanted ancient words. The sound rose and fell, echoing off the walls like drums of war. At the center of the room, a massive pot bubbled fiercely. Inside it was a dark soup made from human organs, hearts, livers, kidneys, uterus and intestines floating in the thick liquid as it boiled. The men clapped their hands in rhythm, chanting louder.
From flesh comes fortune,
the leader intoned.
From blood comes power,
the others replied. Then he raised the glistening human hearts high in the air.
Those who feed on the vital parts of man shall never lack wealth, never lose power. Let the feast begin.
The men clapped slowly in rhythm, chanting louder. Each of them believed it, that by consuming these organs in their secret feasts, their businesses would prosper, their enemies would fall, and their names would never fade. When the soup was ready, it was dished into wooden bowls and passed around the circle. Each man lifted his hood slightly and ate happily, slurping the dark mixture with the organs inside as though it was a real feast. Their lips glistened, their eyes burned with greed. Among them, seated like every other, was Alhaji Bawa, his cloak hiding his face, but his laughter echoing from the rest as he swallowed from his bowl. This is the brotherhood, and this is what they do. Dr. Igabi sat alone in his office at Igabi Hospital, his face buried in his hands. His mind was heavy, spinning in circles. How will he get a human heart? Who will he use? What if he's caught? The thought of the Alhaji's demand made his chest tighten. Refusal meant death. Obedience meant murder. As he stared blankly at the wall, an idea suddenly struck him like lightning. And Zainab, his neighbor, trusting, harmless, always stopping by to greet him with food or a smile. A wicked smile crept across his face.
Yes, she will never see it coming.
Auntie Zainab was a beautiful woman in her late 30s. Because of her age and unmarried status, everyone called her Auntie. She ran a small provision shop just down the street from Igabi Hospital. For years, she had admired Dr. Igabi. One would wonder what she saw in that bald man. Perhaps the few strands of hair on his head had their own strange charm. That afternoon, as she arranged goods in her shop, her phone rang. It was Igabi.
Zainabubu, fine woman. How you dey today now? You know say don't tell when the cut I give me you. Oh yeah, I won't make we meet tonight.
He added quietly.
But please, you go dey secretive. I no wan make my wife find out at all.
Zainab blushed, her heart racing. Ducky, no wahala. Abi, you no trust me again? She laughed nervously, excitement flooding her. This was the moment she had prayed for. Her chance at last. If only she knew what awaited her. That evening, Auntie Zainab spent hours preparing. She wore her best dress, a tight, seductive one that made her look awkward, almost like a plump chicken trying to strut. But in her mind, she looked stunning. Wow. She carefully applied her makeup, lined her lips with red, and sprayed her strongest perfume until the whole room smelled of it. This was her night, the moment she had been waiting for. Meanwhile, just a few blocks from Zainab's house, under the shade of a mango tree, Dr. Igabi sat quietly in his car. His face was unreadable. On the passenger seat lay 2 bottled Coke drinks, cold and waiting. He glanced at his wristwatch now and then, tapping his fingers on the steering wheel. At exactly 9 o'clock p.m., Zainab's phone buzzed. She grabbed it quickly. Meet me under the mango tree a few blocks away from your house. Igabi's message read. Her heart leapt. She checked herself one last time in the mirror, smiled and hurried into the compound, her slippers slapping the wet ground as she walked into the night. She had no idea that the man she was rushing to meet had not come for love, but for her beating heart. The night was calm, the moon half hidden behind clouds. Auntie Zainab walked quickly, her perfume trailing behind her as she walked out of the compound. Under the mango tree, Igabi's car's headlights flashed once. She hurried to it, smiling nervously. You kept me waiting, she teased, opening the door. Igabi's lips curved faintly. He reached for the seat beside him and held out one of the bottled drinks.
Here, drink.
Zainab laughed, taking it with both hands. Aww, Ducky, you even buy Coke for me? You too much. She opened it quickly, gulping without suspicion, her eyes bright with excitement. In her mind, this was the beginning of romance. To her, every gesture meant affection. As they drove off, Igabi kept his eyes on the road, his face stiff, his mind far away. He wasn't thinking about love. He wasn't even listening to her chatter. In no time, Zainab's words began to slur. Her head tilted slowly to the side. She felt dizzy, then her eyes shut completely. She had slipped into a deep sleep. Igabi glanced at her once, expressionless, and kept driving into the night. He drove silently toward the outskirts of Erua, the road narrowing into a lonely path that led deep into the bush. Beside him, Auntie Zainab was still unconscious, her breathing shallow. When he had gone deep enough, sure no one would see him, he stopped the car, stepped out and carried her on his shoulder. The bush swallowed them as he walked deeper, the night eerily quiet. Few minutes later, he stopped, laid Auntie on the ground, then calmly pulled out a nylon coverall, zipped it over his clothes, fixed the face mask and slipped on black gloves. He knelt beside her, his eyes were blank, his heart cold. In one swift move, he struck. Her body jerked, but there was no sound. His face twisted as he walked the blade, cutting her open with precision. Moments later, he lifted out a bloody, steel-beaten heart. Without hesitation, he slid it into a large food flask he had brought along. Quickly, he peeled off the bloodied coverall, gloves and mask, tossing them into a shallow pit and covering them with soil. He didn't bother to bury Zainab. Within minutes, he was back in his car, driving off into the night, the flask sitting quietly beside him, and his secrets sealed by darkness. Days turned into weeks and still no one saw or heard from Auntie Zainab. Her little provision shop remained locked, dust beginning to gather on the wooden shutters. At first, the neighbors thought she had traveled, but when her phone line stayed unreachable and her relatives started coming around to look for her, worries spread across the street. They reported the case to the police station and an investigation started. The police started asking questions, combing through the area and even venturing into nearby bushes. They searched and searched, but found nothing, no trace of her, no clue. As months dragged by, whispers replaced concern. Some said she had eloped with a secret lover. Others claimed maybe she owed money and had fled. Slowly, the case grew cold. The police stopped asking, the neighbors stopped hoping, and gradually, life moved on. But in the shadows, one man knew exactly what had happened. And in the darkness, the memory of Zainab's hurt had already been served to men who feasted for power. Kudi, a young lady in her 20s, had just finished her youth service and returned to her family who lived in Erowa. With no job in sight, she started helping her mother in the canteen. Months passed and jobs were still not forthcoming. Instead of wasting away, Kudi decided to learn a skill, makeup. In 3 months, she graduated and was already doing fine. Then, one afternoon, a Facebook message popped on her phone. It was from a woman named Adiama requesting her service in a neighboring town. Kudi told her the price. To her surprise, Adiama didn't bargain. She simply asked for Kudi's account details. Minutes later, the money landed in her account. Instead of the 50,000 naira Kudi had told her, she sent 200,000 naira. Kudi could hardly breathe. In all her days as a makeup artist, no one had ever paid her that much. At most, she had received 10,000 naira or 20,000 naira. She was overjoyed. Excitement filled her heart as she started planning how to go for the job. Kudi rushed home to tell her mother about the job, but Mama's face tightened as she thought, this person paid 3 times your price, and at once, without even holding any balance. I know they're okay with this, so. Kudi smiled, brushing it off. Mama, I spoke with the woman and she sounded genuine. Mama sighed deeply. Okay, if you say so, just be careful. That night, Kudi packed her makeup box, selected her best outfit, and set everything aside for the trip. She kept smiling at the thought of her breakthrough, never imagining the darkness awaiting. The next morning, Kudi woke up early, full of excitement. She dressed neatly, carried her makeup box, walked towards her mother who was sweeping the compound. Mama prayed for Kudi and reminded her to call once she arrived. Just then, her elder brother Bami, who had come home from the city to see their parents, also spoke up.
Kudi, be careful, no. Make sure you share your live location.
Kudi laughed, rolling her eyes. Which one be live location again? Bro, I am not dying. I'm only going for a job. You both should stop treating me like a baby.
I know. Oh yeah, bring your phone.
Bami insisted. Kudi was reluctant, but she snatched the phone, turned on her live location, shared it to his device, and handed it back. You better keep your data on, he warned, walking away. Mama hugged Kudi one last time, quickly waving her goodbye as she headed to the motor park. After driving for about an hour, the bus rolled to a stop at the dusty junction of Itago. Kudi stepped down with her makeup box, glancing around curiously. The place was quiet, with just a few scattered kiosks and long stretches of bush on both sides. Her phone buzzed. It was a message from Adiama. Someone is already waiting for you there. He will take you to the location. Kudi looked up and saw a tall man in a black cap standing by the roadside, staring at her. He waved casually.
Are you Kudi, the makeup artist?
He asked. Kudi nodded, smiling politely. Yes, I am.
Good. Madam Adiama sent me. Let's go.
The man replied, pointing towards a waiting car parked a few meters away. Kudi adjusted her box and followed him without hesitation, and the vehicle pulled off. Smiling to herself, Kudi muttered, "Nonsense monitoring spirit," as she disconnected the sharing, switched off her internet, and dropped the phone in her bag. Minutes later, the driver spoke softly.
Madam, I beg no vex. I need to pick up my cousin along the way.
Unsuspecting, Kudi agreed. Soon after, the car stopped and another young man slid in beside her at the back. They drove on, but the road grew lonelier, bush on both sides. Uneasy, Kudi reached for her phone to make a call. The moment she started dialing, the man beside her snatched it and clamped a hand over her mouth. On the other end, A voice kept saying, "Hello? Hello?" But Kudi could not answer. Her eyes widened in terror, and in that instant, she knew she had made a grave mistake.